I'd be probably standing on the edge of a bridge if I was getting $1,400 a week. That is absolutely brutal, but I know a lot of you guys, that's what you're earning. The government is not going to come and save you. Don't expect, oh, I just got an extra $5 an hour, right? No one cares. It's not going to make any difference because inflation is going up way faster anyway. But what I'm saying is if you want to break out of your $600 a week or your $1,000 a week mindset or your self-imposed salary cap, then there are ways to do that. The median, it turns out, is, I hate to say this, it's just worse than what you think, right? But it's the accurate number. The median is, I'm Matthew Fraser and this is Crypto Collective. After making millions with Amazon and e-commerce, I realized that if I was starting again today, crypto would be my first choice. I'm here to help you take your first steps and build real wealth. Ready to set yourself up for life? Let's go. Hey guys, the past week on my Instagram page has been absolutely blowing up. And that is over the debate of this $2,000 per week that was recently announced by the Australian Bureau of Statistics and reported by Channel 7. Now, I will admit from the outset, Channel 7 made a bit of a blunder because they said it's a $2,000 average take home. And of course, take home means after tax. So everyone just started piling in on the comments to my reaction to this particular clip of Channel 7. Now, what was fascinating though, was the debate was going wild. So if you're like most Aussies, you probably did a double take when you heard the number of $2,000 average per week. And you're right to think that for some people, it's a lot of money. My reaction though at the time, and yes, maybe I was having a little bit of a stab. I was saying, look, I couldn't possibly live on $2,000 a week. And I couldn't. Right? But I wanted to break down the numbers for you guys and actually dive deep into this and find out, one, was the Channel 7 reporting accurate, which I think it's going to turn out to not be so because I already got it wrong in their report. And secondly, what is the median? Yeah, because in the comments, a lot of people were talking about what is the median for people, right? Not the average. And the median, I'll break that down later, but the median is going to be different. And also, I want to break down for you guys, what is the average for living cost these days? And can you actually live on $2,000 gross per week in one of the highest tax countries in the world of Australia? So guys, as I said before, the first mistake that Channel 7 made was they said that $2,000 was the take home, right? Which means after tax, or also known as the net pay. The gross would be what you get before tax. Right. And so they completely mixed all this up, right? They didn't know what they were talking about. And of course, a lot of people were saying, you cannot even believe the mainstream media, which is exactly right. So what is the difference though between average and what a lot of people were saying in the comments, the median, right? Well, the average is everybody's wage added up together and divided by the number of people, whereas the median is everybody lined up and then you find middle of the range. Okay. So let's actually break this down. So the average $2,000 per week, right, gross, would be $104,000 per year. Now, from the outset, $104,000 sounds like a lot of money, but is it really though? Because when you look at then what is the median, which is probably more of an accurate number, it's not skewed by people who are earning millions and millions, or some CEO executives of banks who are earning tens of millions of dollars a year. They're skewing the numbers, right? The median, it turns out, is I hate to say this, it's just worse than what you think, right? But it's the accurate number. The median is $1,400 per week. Yeah, and this is according to, I did some research. It wasn't just the ABS that reported this, it was also Fair Work Australia. Now, you could both argue that, hey, these are both government agencies, but look, that's where the numbers come from. $1,400 per week gross is the median wage, which is about $72,000 per year in Australia. Now, I said before in my reaction video, you know, I'd be crying in the corner if I was earning $2,000 a week. Damn, I'd be probably standing on the edge of a bridge if I was getting $1,400 a week. That is absolutely brutal. But I know a lot of you guys, that's what you're earning. Right? So I want to see, how can we get out of that too? How can we start earning more money than that? So when Channel 7 dropped this figure, social media lit up with Aussies expressing their shock, confusion, and even anger. Yeah, I found it absolutely fascinating from a psychological point of view, watching the comments. And for many people, $2,000 a week is a number they've never seen on their payslip. This is the reality. A lot of people are earning well below that amount. As I've said just before, the median is $1,400 a week. So whether they're working on hospitality, they're working in retail jobs or sectors where wages haven't kept up with inflation, people were livid about it. And I think people are upset because this announcement feels disconnected from their lived experience. It's confronting to be told the average is so high when it seems out of reach. And it can make people feel left behind or questioning whether they're doing something wrong. The sense of inequality is real and palpable amongst people in Australia. And it was shown directly in the social media comments. Now, what I found absolutely fascinating though, above everything else, was the competition amongst the people in the comments of who had the most trodden down victim story to sort of express their, hey, I'm earning $600 a week and I'm getting by. And then someone else would chime in and say, well, I'm earning $800 a week and I'm getting by and I've got 10 kids and this, that, and the other. Like that was literally in the comments. And so it was a competition of who was doing the worst, right? Rather than, they should be, look, in my opinion, there should have been people piling in saying, hey guys, there is a solution to this. You don't have to be earning $600 a week. There was even one gentleman on my Instagram and he said, hey Matt, I'm earning, I think it was something like $500 a week. Yeah, I'm earning $500 a week. And I said, yeah, but is that through choice? Like, are you choosing to do that? Because why you would even do that is beyond me. Now, I did some numbers and this is going, people, and this, I dropped this in the comments and people were freaking livid about it. I said, you could work at Hungry Jack's or a similar fast food outlet and earn $1,500 a week, right? $1,500 a week. And oh my God, the comments that came back to me, oh, as if anyone could earn that because I'm a laborer earning $1,200 a week. And people, I think, found it so offensive. They found it absolutely offensive that there could be someone working at a fast food joint earning $1,500 a week where they were breaking their back out, on a construction site, for example. But I'm just giving you the facts. I'm just telling you the reality of what's out there. Now, is the average person, right, working in a fast food outlet earning $1,500 a week? No, that's not the case. But what I'm saying is if you want to break out of your $600 a week or your $1,000 a week mindset or your self-imposed salary cap, then there are ways to do that. And I'm going to tell you exactly how you could do it. You would simply work 10 hours on a Saturday, 10 hours on a Sunday, and then you make up the other 15 odd hours through the week. That's it. That's all you would need to do to get to $1,500. And why is that? It's because there's penalty rates on the weekends. So you're going to earn more money on those days. And I even said this in the guy, I said, guys, this is a freaking no-brainer. Hello, you go and work on the days where you can get the most amount of money. And this isn't even you having to go and start your own business. This is just showing up, clocking in, working for 10 hours, and then fucking off going home. That's all you have to do, right? Make the burgers, go home. You don't have to take the job with you, right? But here's the thing in Australia, and people are going to hate me saying this, is people aren't prepared to do it. Because I guarantee you in these comments now of this video, people are going to say, oh, but Matt, I don't want to have to give up my weekend. Okay, great. Don't give up your weekend then. Yeah. Stick to your $600 a week. That's what I'm going to say. Stick to your $600 a week if you're not prepared to do whatever it takes. And I'm not telling you this because I'm not someone who hasn't done those things. I've been there. I've worked the weekends. I've worked the night shifts. When I was much, much younger, I used to do a cleaning job. I used to have to start at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, right? And work all the way through till like midday or 1, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, right? That's what I did. I've also gone and drove Uber all over the Gold Coast, right? I've done these jobs. So don't come back at me and say, oh, mate, you'd never done it. Life's so good for you. No, I've been there, okay? but I was doing whatever I had to do to bring money in the door so I could earn more money, so I could invest more money. Because if you guys haven't woken up yet, you have to bring more money into your kitty in order to have extra money to go and put it into investments, because the investments are going to start growing outside of your day-to-day job, right? I know this might be like revelations for some people, but I'm just telling you the reality. The government is not going to come and save you, okay? So don't expect, oh, I just got an extra $5 an hour, right? No one cares. It's not going to make any difference because inflation is going up way faster anyway. So you're going to have to do more with your hours that you have. Even if you have to work, and dare I say, 50, 60 hours a week. And I'm not saying you have to work that sort of period of time for the rest of your life. There's a period of time where you've got to really double down. Yeah, double down and triple down and make hay while you're young. You've got the energy and then you can do it. Because unfortunately, some people who get into the workforce, in their late teens, early 20s, they expect that they're going to be earning, even $2,000 a week for these people would be amazing, right? But you're not going to get there because you're young and inexperienced. That's the whole point. Now, are there jobs that you can go and obtain? Absolutely. I'm going to break those down for you in just a moment. So look, guys, I know this can be tough, right? But this is why this matters, because when media outlets report on wages, it shapes the public perception. If the average is presented as the norm, it can set unrealistic expectations and create real frustration amongst people. And those people want transparency, accuracy, and especially when it comes to issues that hit close to home, like how much they earn. And that's why I think this debate became a reminder to dig into the numbers and understand what's really being reported. As we can talk about income, cost of living, fairness in Australia, it's important to look beyond the headlines and ask, whose reality are we really talking about? So guys, I've given you my rant on what needs to be done, but I want to break down some numbers for you because I thought this would be really, really interesting when I'm basing it on the $1,400 per week median wage, right? So $1,400 before tax, okay? So I'm going to base this on a family of 4, right? Because that's sort of the average in Australia, like 2 parents, 2 kids, what are the numbers? So therefore, if both parents would be working, we're talking about $3,000. Let's just bump it up to $3,000 per week, which is, wait for it, $2,100 after tax, okay? And that's for 2 people working. Right? This is insane, like 2 people working. Hey guys, real quick, if you're ready to take your crypto investments to the next level, check out Imperial Wealth. They'll show you their entire portfolio, share tips from their most successful moves, and their 35-person team watches the market 24/7 and recently tipped a coin that 5x'd in just 4 days. Click the link in the show notes to learn more. Now back to the episode. So let's go into the numbers now of some of the costs that the average family has per week. Now, the average mortgage in Australia right now is $678,000, which is a $900 per week repayment. And just as a side note, the median rent is $630 per week. So we've got groceries on top of that, $200 per week. Now, when I saw this number, now this is all reported by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. And when I saw these numbers, I was like, holy smokes, groceries, $200 a week. Damn, how do people live on that? How do people live on $200 a week in groceries? I had to go and I went and picked up the groceries from Coles yesterday and I had to actually double check. And I said to my wife, how much did we pay for this bootload of groceries? And it was like close to $500, right, for the week. And that wouldn't include all the extra things that we get, right? Sometimes we get some, protein meals delivered and things like this, right? So it is bloody expensive, right? So if you're living on $200 a week in groceries, you're doing extremely well. Like you must love baked beans. So what have we got? On top of that, electric and gas, $60 per week. Car repayment, $160 per week. Car fuel, $90 per week, which is funny because it's almost the cost of this. It's almost more than half the cost of the car repayment. Then you've got insurance, so like car, home, etc., $60 per week, and school expenses, about $135 per week. That's for the 2 kids, right? Phone and internet, $40 per week. I don't know where they get that number from. And so that totals $1,645 per week. So just a reminder, after-tax money was $2,100 per week, and now just those expenses alone, $1,645. Now, keep in mind, I didn't add into there going to the shops and just spending money on shit, right? So no clothing, no shoes, nothing. I didn't also factor in there what happens if your car needs new tires, right? I just got new tires on my car the other day. It was like $2,600 for a whole set of tires. Now they're performance tires. That's a lot of money, right? $2,600. Insane, right? At this budget, you've got to be hoping that your tires are like $49 each. Yeah, $200 max for your set. Otherwise, you're out, right? Now, this is brutal. So, I don't know. And the other thing it doesn't factor in is holidays. I didn't factor any holidays or any other medical expenses unforeseen, right? So let's assume then that the total expenses weren't $1,645. Let's just say they're $2,000 per week, okay? That means you've only got $100 a week left over, yeah? And again, not counting all those unforeseen expenses. So let's see then what you could do. Let's assume that you could actually get by. And I know people who do, because to be honest with you, a family member of mine lives on a good wage, but very, very frugal, like very frugal, right? Also has no children too, right? So, but she does extremely well when it comes to the living standards, right? So let's assume though that you can actually make this, you've got left over $100 per week. And now, as I mentioned before, the only way to get out of this sort of this rat race or the matrix that you kind of stuck in is to invest in something, right? And of course, because this is a Bitcoin and crypto channel, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, which is the best performing asset that there has been for the last 15 years. And it's set to be for at least the next 20 plus years, okay? So let's assume you're putting $100 per week. Let's also assume, I'm going to give it a pretty high percentage. I'm going to assume the best case scenario here, which is say 50% CAGR, which is compounding annual growth rate. Like, so 50% sort of compounding over 20 years. Can you imagine what that would get to? You're going to be floored. $220 million. Holy smokes, $220 million. Now that assumes that, of course, that even if you built up a bag of Bitcoin and it got to $10 million, that you couldn't just jump in and start spending it, right? And selling off your Bitcoin. This assumes that you didn't touch it. Let's assume then, you said, Matt, that's absolutely crazy. 50% is nuts. It never ever has done that. When in fact it has though. It has actually done over 50%. But let's assume moving forward it doesn't do that. Let's drop the percentage rate down to what even Michael Saylor, one of the biggest Bitcoin evangelists in the world, if not the biggest, he believes Bitcoin will do at a base case 29% CAGR over the next 20 years. So what would that number then give you? It would still give you $5.8 million. Right? $5.8 million. So I don't know if you're going to be able to hold on to that, but I tell you what, at least if you put that aside, and even if you did something like what I advocate for, which is actually putting your superannuation into an SMSF and allocating that to Bitcoin, right? You could actually not take any money from your $100 a week or your salary and just use the funds that were sitting in your superannuation, which of course you can't even touch it anyway. Right? You can't even touch it anyway. So it's the lowest hanging fruit in order to allocate to the best performing asset. Now, I get it, but things aren't changing for you unless you take action, right? So you have to actually stop whinging about it, because there was a lot of whinging going on in the comments, right? I'm giving you some actual practical advice on what you could possibly do. Now, the other thing to consider too is forget about Bitcoin. Forget about your superannuation. Let's just say you don't even touch that at all. What about just doing something that just gives you more pay per week? So changing your job, because so many people in the comments were just like, oh, I earn $600 per week, but pretending like there was no other solution. There was no other alternative. It's like, this is what I'm stuck with, which I find just sort of mind-boggling that people even think like that. So let me break down the top 10 wage earners in Australia right now. I will start, just to give you a comparison, the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, which I saw some people saying Anthony Elbow, right? Rather than Albo, they'll call him Elbow, which I thought was hilarious. He's earning $12,000 per week. All right, so get that, $12,000 a week. But here's some of the jobs that you could do, right? Radiologist is $4,500 odd dollars per week, right? A psychiatrist, $4,500 a week. General practitioner, like a doctor, another $4,500 per week. A surgeon, $7,500 per week. Now that's a good one. Anaesthetist, $6,700 per week. Now we've got a bit of a theme here. There's a lot of people in medical. Mining engineer, $4,200 per week. An internal medicine specialist, $4,800 per week. A CEO of a company, they on average earn nearly $5,800 per week. Financial dealer, $5,300 per week. You're gonna have to Google what that is. And an orthodontist, $4,000 per week, right? So most of those jobs at a bare minimum were double what the average is, right? Even $4,000 was the double of what the current average is, which is astonishing, right? Now, I will admit, this is not a job that you're just gonna walk into, right? All of those jobs are gonna require a tremendous amount of study. You're gonna have to have a lot of skills and intelligence to get those jobs. And it's gonna take time. You're not gonna come out of high school. And for most people, they're probably not even gonna come straight out of uni into those types of jobs. It's gonna take years to get there, right? So I'm not saying it's a solution for someone who's earning $600 per week, but it's something to aim for, right? And realize that, hey, I don't have to be set in my $600 per week job, or even the median of $1,400 per week, right? If you're in that category, there are alternatives. But what I wanna do is dig a little bit deeper. Now, I will admit, I'm someone who's never been to university. I completed year 12. I'm just the average person in the street, right? I didn't go and get all these special qualifications and get completely certified really in anything. I've just sort of fumbled my way through life and end up making multi-millions of dollars. But what if, and these would be jobs that I would probably consider because I don't have the degree. So I wonder what sort of jobs that you can get where you're self-employed and you need no degree. And the number one is a construction contractor. They're earning between $2,500 to $4,000 per week. The next one would be a plumber, $2,000 odd up to $3,500 per week. Electrician is $2,000 to $3,200 per week. Mining driller, up to $4,500 a week. Now just think about that for a second. A mining driller, $4,500 compared to some of those other medical type jobs where that requires a lot of university, probably almost a decade, I would say, some of those jobs of university. You're gonna get the same sort of money being a mining driller. Another one would be a commercial pilot, but a freelance commercial pilot, meaning you're a self-employed commercial pilot, up to $5,000 a week, yeah? Now, commercial pilot, I will admit, that also does require an absolute ton of training, right? You're not just gonna walk in off the street and just start flying planes, right? Digital marketing consultant, up to $3,500 per week. Now, a digital marketing consultant, that's gonna be based on, in my opinion, experience, yeah? And for a lot of you guys who are on your social media, all day, every day, that could be a good start. Maybe get some skills. You could actually get free skills from YouTube and learn how to be a digital marketing consultant, right? And get $3,500 per week. How about real estate agent? This is incredible. This is one of the best ones, up to $6,000 per week. And guess what? You don't need to have a degree for that. You can just walk in off the street. People are desperate, but you know what? You're gonna have to put a lot of work in, right? None of these jobs are just walk in and put in no work, right? They do require work. What else have we got? Graphic designer, freelance graphic designer, up to $3,000 per week. Delivery service owners, like an Uber Eats, that type of thing. Now, for someone who's done Uber before, I never did Uber Eats, but I did do the taxi Uber. I was probably earning $800 per week, but I wasn't putting in a full 40 hours. That was just like part-time on the weekend and night times, right? But if you did it for like a full-time gig, you could earn up to $3,000 a week. Okay, so if you can just drive a car, you're good to go, basically, or probably even a scooter. And the last one, number 10, capping this out, was a fitness trainer, right? Up to $2,800 per week. There you go, guys. I've solved all your problems. You've now got a whole set of the top 10 jobs you can now aim for. Now, of course, they're not going to be for everybody, but I'm just trying to break it down for you guys so that you realize, hey, I don't have to be stuck in my shitty $1,400 per week median job. There are alternatives out there. And yes, it might be uncomfortable for you. You might have to get out of your cushy, job working behind the desk somewhere or even in the factory, right? But there are solutions for you. So guys, next time you hear about, average wages, remember, numbers can be deceiving. The median gives a clearer picture of what most Australians actually take home. And if you're feeling a bit rattled about Channel 7's report, you're not alone. There was a ton of people who felt the same, but it's a conversation worth having. And I'm glad you joined me for it because you certainly gave me a lot of backlash in the comments. And I hope you give me some backlash in the comments today too, especially when I said I'd be crying in the corner if I was earning $2,000 a week. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Take care. Bye for now. Hey, thanks for tuning into Crypto Collective. If you enjoyed this video, the best way to show your support is to subscribe to the channel, or if you're listening on Spotify, leave a 5-star review. It really helps me to create more content just for you. Also, if you're ready to level up your crypto journey, make sure to check out CoinStash. It's the platform that I trust to buy, sell, and hold crypto with ease. You can also find more of me at I'm Matthew Fraser on all social media platforms. Take care.